Good morning, friends, family, and fellow sojourners. This story I'm about to tell you about another miracle that happened involved several people. And I just want to say it was just a few years after I became a Christian. I was still a baby Christian and not really understanding all that the Lord was saying to me or how I was to respond to Him. And I remember one day I was thinking about someone that I barely knew. Her name was Marcia, but she kept popping into my mind, and I didn't understand why she was popping into my mind, and I just went about my business and pretty much ignored it, but remembered that I'd been thinking about her on and off the whole day. And that evening, my sister Sharon called and asked if I'd heard about Marcia and John, and I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, well, they had taken a client out to dinner at this restaurant, and when they left the restaurant, about a block and a half away, they stopped at a red light, and a drunk driver came out of nowhere and hit them head on. Marcia was not wearing her seatbelt. She hadn't even had time to do that. My sister said she was killed instantly, and her husband, John, was in the hospital in critical condition, was in a coma. And I told her, I said, "Well, Sharon, I've been thinking about her all day. Her name just kept popping up in my mind." And she said, "You know that you were supposed to pray for her, don't you?" And I said, "No, I didn't realize that." And then I was filled with a lot of guilt because I hadn't prayed for her. It never occurred to me to pray for her. I mean, I barely knew her. But be that as it may, I was guilt-ridden, and my sister said, "If that ever happens to you again," she said, "I certainly know what to do." She said, "You call me. I don't care what time of the day or night it is. You call me, and my husband Kent and I will start praying." So I promised her that I would. Well, months later, I woke up in this cold sweat and felt horrible, like something awful was going to happen, or had happened, and I didn't know what to do. No name was coming to mind. So I called, I think it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I called my sister and woke her up, and I said, "Sharon, I don't know what's going on, and I am not hearing a name." I said, "I just feel that something critical is happening or will happen." The Lord has given me premonitions about those things over the years. Even before I became a Christian, I had that gift. And so she said, "Okay, we'll take care of it." Well, the next day when I went to see her, we noticed that about 2.5 blocks from their home, in their neighbor's yard, there was a tree that had been knocked over. It was a young tree, not that big, but it had been knocked over, and I wonder what happened there. So when we got to her house, I asked her, and she said, that might have been involved in that car accident. And I said, "What car accident?" She said, "Well, after I got off the phone with you last night, or early this morning," she said, "Kit and I got on our knees and we began to pray. And while we were praying, we had heard this horrible noise, like a car crash." And I said, "Wow." And I said, "What happened?" She said, "We don't know. We just began to pray for the person that was involved in that car accident, and also for the paramedics or whoever was responding to that call." She said, sure enough, a few minutes later, they heard an ambulance or a fire truck or whatever. And so she said, we began praying for them to give them wisdom and that they'd be able to help the person that was in the car or whatever. And I said, "Wow." I said, "Do you know them?" She said, "No, I don't know who it was." She said, "I just know that we were praying for them before the accident happened." Well, it turns out not long after, she was talking to her friend Charlotte, who was quite a bit older than she was, and she and her husband had been ministering to Charlotte for years. And Charlotte, who was a widow and had several children, was talking to her, and she said, as a matter of fact, Sharon, my son was involved in a car accident just down the street from you. And she said, well, when did that happen? So she told her, and she said, well, is he okay? She said, yes. She said, he was coming down this hill and lost control of the car, or I honestly don't know whether he'd been drinking or driving or whatever. I didn't get into that. But she said he hit a car that was parked on the street so hard that it pushed the car up over the curb and into a tree. And she said, and he wasn't even hurt. He didn't even have a scratch. So Sharon began to tell her about my phone call and the fact that she and Ken had been praying for somebody that they didn't even know who, but that they'd been praying before the accident, after the accident, and for the paramedics and the firefighters or whatever. And we recognized that God, in his divine wisdom and his mercy and his grace and his provision, had actually rescued that young man. And it was a testimony to him and to Charlotte and to Sharon and to me and to Kent about how merciful God is and how he orchestrates these miracles. So I hope you enjoyed this story. Please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or remark on the comment section so that I'll know I'm on the right track, or maybe can make some improvements in some way. But I hope you were blessed by this story. Take care. Bye-bye.